Hey guys, Sendrith here. Um, Making a quick video today to talk about, well, the title is going to be why or how the deal with Daybreak Games by Quarm could hurt THJ's case or defense. But what I'm really trying to explore is why certain THJ enthusiasts feel that the deal can hurt THJ's case. And I don't want to share my conclusion. I'd rather you just walk through me with it. But I do want to give a brief introduction here. When I did a critique of Gymnastic Goldfish's video, during that critique, I was so bewildered by trying to figure out where this was coming from. I mentioned at one point, like, is this guy just making clickbait? Because I said this because I literally, it just seemed so out of left field that it felt like maybe this guy is actually intentionally just saying these things to rile people up to get more attention. But then I let that idea go after just a few seconds because the computer kept operating, and I have a decent instinct for people reading faces and body language, and I thought, no, he actually does believe what he's saying. So it's not just an intentional grab for clickbait, but I say that because it emphasizes how much I could not understand where all this vitriol was coming from towards Secrets, towards the deal with Daybreak. Because in my mind, it had nothing to do with THJ at all. So that was just a little sample of what I think is probably a pretty widespread assumption or attitude amongst THJ enthusiasts. Of course, most of them are not going to be as vehement and vile as the extreme case examples that the internet tends to put in our face. But I think even a good deal of them will have at least some sense that Quarm's deal with Daybreak hurts the chances of THJ's success. And so I want to explore the why there. But before I do, I wanted to get you caught up with the conversations I've had trying to get the why from the source themselves. Okay? So this was a comment on one of my recent videos, I think my most recent video, by I should double check, but I think I ran into this guy on Gymnastic Goldfish's videos comment section, right? And here he expresses in the most extreme form this attitude that I'm trying to reference here. If Secrets wanted to shut down his server, so be it. This is a Necromancer 3353 here. If Secrets wanted to shut down his server, so be it, but he should have kept it down until the lawsuit was over. He making a deal with DPG, he means DBG, with his server that was and is going nowhere is asinine. All he did was help DBG's lawsuit in court. He might have helped his little Quarm community, but he shit all over THJ and every player that plays there. That's the problem, and that's why there is pushback. As far as Quarm being gutted, you can't gut something that is already dead and rotting. All THJ fans owes Secret a big fuck you. Okay, so obviously this guy's coming from a very emotional place, and at the end of the video I kind of want to talk about how these emotions get so out of control to where we begin to get crazy like this. In the same comment, he's basically saying that out of appreciation or some sense of brotherhood with THJ, or what's the word when you like stand by people? Anyway, I can't think of the adjective. I usually would though. Anyway, so out of this sense of loyalty or something, he thinks that Secrets should have not made this deal with Daybreak. He should have risked. I don't want to go too much into it because I just made a video about it, and I think this comment is on that video. Secrets should have just accepted the possible risk of being next in line to be sued and losing her entire livelihood and having her wages garnished for the rest of her life. Just to give a little, just to not take away from the strength of THJ's stance in this case, right? So that's why it says a deal with Daybreak Games with his server that is going nowhere is asinine. He uses the word asinine, right? So we're supposed to have this sense of like brotherhood with THJ. But let's look at his attitude towards Quarm, a server that was and is going nowhere. As far as Quarm being gutted, you can't gut something that's already dead and rotting. So here let's see how he considers Quarm. He's asking for like brotherly consideration from Secrets to put her in basically her entire life on the line. In the modern day sense of life, not in the true sense of like going to die. But I don't want to go into why it was entirely reasonable for Secrets to be worried about potentially being sued again, because I just did a video on that. Of course, these people can't hear that. They just no process, no response to the points. No response to the points, as we will see later in this presentation. But anyway, so here we have this idea. I'm just going to get back on track here. Here we have this idea that all he did was help Daybreak's lawsuit in court. Okay, so I did not see this at all. I did not see this at all. I don't think in any way it's going to impact the court case at all. Am I a lawyer? No. But my father is a lawyer. My mother is a lawyer. 3 of my uncles are lawyers. My grandfather is a lawyer who has a law firm called Conway and Conway. Conway's my last name in Massachusetts. So I prepared for law school. I studied for the LSAT for months, and I took the LSAT. So I'm not entirely unfamiliar with how law works. And I did not even see this potential line of thought, because I'm not in the emotional space of the THJ community, and I want to show that I appreciate that emotional space. It's horrible for your server to be threatened this way, and they're probably feeling now that it's going down. And I can imagine that's inspiring lots of emotions. And we can see from comment after comment, they just hate Daybreak games. They say it's shit. They need to die. Everybody needs to stop supporting them. And of course, they're crushing the innovation. They're killing EverQuest. There's all this attitude against Daybreak games. And so I think in that space of they're losing THJ, they're hating Daybreak, and then they see this deal with Daybreak. I feel like a lot of this is not that they actually believe the deal is going to hurt their case. If they're not even really thinking about it clearly, I think they're just angry Daybreak, and then now Quarm together with Daybreak, angry Quarm, shit on it, everything over there that is together with Daybreak, just shit on it all. Any way we can think of. Someone in the mob's like, they hurt our case, like the South Park. They took our jobs. They hurt our case. And everyone else is like, let's not even think twice about that statement because it feels good. Yeah, they hurt our case. How asinine. I can't believe it. Fuck you. But there's really anybody who thinks twice about it. My thinking is this. Let's steelman the argument the best we can. And to do that, we have to put Quarm and THJ in the same ballpark, because right now they're actually not even really in the same ballpark. Okay, they are and they're not, because a lot of the lawsuit was about THJ having changed the game so much, and that was another thing about the deal. It really showed the THJ user base. I think they were saying they think they're going to win the lawsuit, but I think in the honest thoughts in the back of their mind is, if we be really positive and we push hard, then Daybreak Games will make a deal with us and we'll survive that way. But when they saw the deal with Quarm cutting out this small custom content, right? They're like, wow, if they will not even let Quarm have those little things that they made, then they're definitely not going to accept 90% of what makes THJ THJ. So it was like the realization that this is not going to be resolved by Daybreak conceding and allowing THJ to exist through a deal. And I think that's where a lot of the anger is coming from. That's really where the deal, I wouldn't say hurt their chances at making that compromise. I think the deal simply revealed that Daybreak was not going to be making that compromise and really cemented it in reality. So that little dream of Daybreak making a deal with THJ died, and the people who revealed the action which revealed and caused the death of that dream is hated. But let's just continue the comments, and then I'll share more with what I think about this real quick. Well, actually, the next comment is doing exactly that. So here, let's check it out. I responded to him and I said, Quarm is a classic museum server like P99 that goes to pop. Custom content is about giving people access to things like Mana Stone and Rubicite. I've already said this 3 times. He commented on a video where I'm saying it, so I'm just shouting to the wind here, but it could mostly be for people who are reading, who are not directly this person, right? To things like Mana Stone and Rubicite that were removed from the game in instances or more spawns of mobs to remove bottlenecking. Instances and for guilds not to have to compete for raid mobs, and more spawns of mobs for keys and various quests and things, so people aren't getting stuck just trying to get a key for Seb or something, right? Isn't THJ's, I meant to say isn't, I said isn't THJ's defense about how they changed the game so much that it is no longer covered by copyright? Because that's all I was hearing in the beginning, was like, we have a free use possibility here, and I think the free use possibility, it made me think of a recent case about some YouTube content creators where they were a bunch of YouTube content creators, they'll show a video of like a debate or something, and then they'll pause it and they'll say some thoughts or add something that they're thinking that was missed, or just talk about what this person said, or yeah, this guy's totally off his rocker, and they're commenting on it, and then that devolved into some people literally just playing the debate and standing there being like, and then something happened. I didn't read the details. I just heard about it vaguely. Something happened where that was declared not fair use. You have to contribute something. You have to like change. Your video has to say more than just the content you're sharing in your video, right? So I think something along those lines is maybe what THJ users were thinking, like, oh, well, we've changed the game so much, it's like another iteration. It's like something different because we've added to it, we've changed it so much. And it's like, this isn't a YouTube video. You're using the game's IP. You're making a game and you're monetizing it, Anyway, but the point is that most of the arguments I've heard about why THJ thinks they're going to win the case is because they think they have a fair use clause that's going to allow them to, right? So my point was that Quarm is not like THJ. It's not changing the content. Not even close to as much. Not even close, right? It's basically, again, it's P99, but we're going to go to pop. We're going to keep in some of those legacy items that were removed from live and also thereby also removed from P99, and we're going to make them all more accessible. Try to make all these special things that people only got to do if they were there at the right time in history, or if they were in a guild that was big enough to dominate the other guilds and get them done. We're going to try to make these things so everybody can get this experience, right? But that's not custom content. That's custom tweaks to the game system that allow for people to experience the original content that they couldn't experience because of, some of it was removed after a certain point, or there was too much competition that they couldn't overcome because they weren't sweaty enough, right? So, and those custom tweaks were preserved in Project Quarm. So anyway, I say to him, I say, isn't THJ's defense about this, about how it's no longer covered by the copyright because now it's a whole, and if that's true, it's a whole different animal than Quarm. Therefore, a deal made with Quarm has no effect on THJ's position because it's such a different animal. And that's not even the only reason. And I think the more important reason is this. I urge you to go to Thomas Van, and watch his recent video where he covers the precedent set for cases like this. And listen to the way he talks about what the case was about, and how the judge made certain decisions, and the various laws that are involved that decided whether or not the copyright was infringed, and they needed to be, and they had to pay the money, right? There's no talk about, well, before this other server and that other server. It's always like, well, this law says that this cannot be done. You cannot circumvent the client and log in to your own server using the client. And did this server do that? And that's how law works. Law works at, what are the actions of the defendant? What did they do? And what is the letter of the law? Did their actions violate the letter of the law? The fact that Daybreak Games made a deal with Quarm is not even going to be a factor. It couldn't be. It couldn't be. The defense could easily refute that. They would say, well, perhaps Secrets doesn't know that she could also use the content without having to seek permission. So the fact that she doesn't know that and therefore goes and voluntarily makes a deal with Daybreak Games does not say anything about whether or not THJ can. It's just that simple. Like, the law is, it's about logic, and the judge is not going to just be like, oh, but they made a deal. Doesn't that mean that you should too? That must mean, like, no, that's not how the law works. So I think anybody who has any idea of the law and looks at what actually happened in previous similar instances, to think that this deal is going to affect the actual court case is irrational. It's not totally far-fetched. I can understand where that sentiment comes from, especially when there's already such an emotional charge for the people who are thinking about this, but it's not very rational thought to say this comment, right? What was the comment? Let me go back to it here. To say that all Secrets did when they made a deal, all he did was help Daybreak's lawsuit in court. He might have helped his little Quarm community, but he shit all over THJ and every player that ever plays there. This is such an asinine take. Secrets has to look out for her own welfare and the welfare of her server. And you shouldn't expect so much consideration when you talk about that server like it's a piece of shit. Like, you can't in the same comment demand consideration, brotherly consideration, and talk that way about your brother. You have to at least like display some of the attitude that you are saying others should have, right? So we kind of get into these things where we contradict ourselves when we kind of get a little crazy, and again, I'm going to talk about that at the end of this video. But I like to address multiple dimensions. So I continue my comment, and I said, even if it did, let's just say for the sake of argument, even if Secret's deal did affect THJ's defense case in the upcoming lawsuit court case, right? Secrets has every right to be worried when she sees a lawsuit even start to go out, since we are the next biggest thing. Yeah, we're nowhere near as big as THJ, but we are the next biggest thing. It's not unreasonable to think that they're going to chop down all the large emulators that are operating completely illegally, right? It's not such a far-fetched thing. And again, go to my previous video where I think about the cost and benefit. The cost of, if a lawsuit does drop, even if the likelihood is so small, the cost is so great to Secrets and to Quarm, because Quarm would be dead forever. The cost is so great, and the benefit, the Quarm people get to play for a month that they would, and THJ's case maybe is not slightly hurt, and that's just for the sake of argument. I'm granting that, and I don't believe that it's even rational to believe that anyway. But even if those are the benefits, I think the potential cost if a lawsuit does drop, because once a lawsuit drops, it's too late. You're screwed. All right. So to be like angry at Secrets and like call her such horrible things, it just shows a lack of ability to think about things objectively. Okay. If you wait till your suit, it's already too late. Her livelihood is worth more than a video game, bro, and her getting her server back up is her priority. You wouldn't think twice if tables were reversed, so why expect anything different? Truth is, THJ is cooked, bro. Like, honestly, that's what I believe. Like, and if it's not cooked, this side deal with another server that's vastly different from THJ is not going to be like it's not going to be like so close that this is like the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's not. It carries I think it carries no weight in court, literally no weight. But even if we grant that it carried weight, just for the sake of argument, that amount of weight would be so small that like this amount of vitriol, it just betrays the grief and the pain and the anger that the THJ player here is feeling more so than any actual reality of what he is saying. But I responded to him because I try to respond people directly. Even if that involves some anger, it's kind of how I level with people, and I think to not level with people is actually disrespectful. Taking a high road with people, I really don't like that because it feels arrogant. So I'm like, bro, here's my opinion, bro. THJ is already cooked. Anyone with half a brain cell can look at the game and see it as EverQuest. This whole thing about being able to win this lawsuit is the first stage of grief, aka denial. And that's another thing I'll talk about at the end of the video too, how we're seeing the stages of grief. Grief, denial, and then the next is anger, right? So here, first we saw grief. I'll just talk about it now. First we saw grief. No. It's all the stages of grief, excuse me. First we saw denial. THJ sends out a message, and basically, I'm in the THJ Discord. Maybe not for long after saying this. Maybe I'll get kicked out now. But I saw the announcement, and it was like, hey guys, we're kind of being sued by Daybreak, but don't worry about it. We got it. The facts are on our side. And then everyone's like, woohoo, yeah, oh, look at how cool we are. They're trying to sue us now. Haha, can't touch this. Can't touch this. And it's like, what? You guys, So the first stage of grief, denial. Stage 2, anger. We saw that in Gymnastic Goldfish's video, where at the end he's finally like, oh, like, this just sucks. And we saw that anger coming out towards Secrets and Quarm. And here we see it again in these comments. So I said this, and he says, Quarm is a nothing server. If they wanted to sue Secrets, trust me, it'd be in the lawsuit. Trust you. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm going to trust you about what would and would not be in Daybreak's lawsuit. Again, like, why would they not do one at a time? It makes sense, especially because the servers are so different. I would trust an objective thought that would say, actually, it's very likely that they would not be in the same lawsuit. But, people who... He's not thinking about what he's saying. He's just venting here. There wouldn't be a next lawsuit. It would be wham bam this one. Well, this is funny because it would be multiple servers, so why is it wham bam this one? Because it would have to be at least 2, right? So I don't know what the heck he's talking about here. The face that they named content creators over Quarm. Wow, the grammar here. Face that they named content creators over Quarm. Tell me next, if there was a next lawsuit, it would be against them. Against who? And is he saying here that Quarm would be the next lawsuit? Like, I almost can't even understand. I won't comment on what I can't understand here. And don't you worry your little head with your 637 subs. 635 now. They are not talking about you, so no need to shut your channel down. I don't know why. I don't know where this is coming from. Did I say something about shutting my channel down? I think I did a while ago, because I was like, I don't really play anymore, and maybe when Quarm comes back, I'll just keep it that way. Because I've actually been pretty healthy and having a good time and getting into things that in my heart, I really feel like is my duty to do. That with my limited time, I do believe it is the healthier decision, but I'm trying not to push myself to try to be that optimal person yet. I'm still in family life right now. I'm so busy. I should leave some room for recreation so I don't burn out, right? But at the same time, I'm like, I could give this up. And if I could give it up and not burn out, it would be for the best. It would be a huge step up for my spiritual practice. I'm just going to say it. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I am a disciple, and the goal is to give your entire life to the practice. So I am, with this break, this seems like an opportunity to just let it go. And that's the only reason I'm thinking about stopping making videos, not even shutting the channel down. It has nothing to do with THJ. These people think it's all about THJ. Everything's all about THJ. Alright, so... And then, this is the important comment, never said that at all. So in my previous comment, I'm telling them, is THJ's defense about how they changed the game so much, and therefore it is no longer covered by copyright? He said, never said that at all. And then I say, so then why does Secrets making a deal hurt THJ then? That's the only line of thought that I could fathom. Because I'm trying to understand, like, why do you think this deal hurts THJ? He says, if you don't understand how that hurts them, it's because you don't want to see it. And I can't open someone's eyes who doesn't want to open them. So I reply, please, dude, look, I get that attitude. I even said something similar maybe to this guy before. Someone's like, I don't see what Gymnastic Goldfish said wrong about Secrets here. And I said the similar thing. I was like, dude, if you don't see what's wrong about how he's talking about Secrets, or like anybody who acted, with good intentions and good faith, then I don't know how to help you here. But I made an appeal to this guy. I said, look, you have yet to even once say, please lay out the line of thought as to how this deal hurts THJ in your eyes. Just once. You have yet to even say it once. Then after that, I'll concede that I, quote unquote, just don't want to see it. And I won't ask again, but at least say it once. I literally can't figure it out unless it is what I said above. So he's saying what I said above is not his idea of how the deal with Quarm is going to hurt THJ. And then he says he says he won't tell me what it is though. And I'm like, well, if that's not it, that's the only thing I could think of. Can you please tell me just once? And I promise I'm not going to argue about it. I just want to hear it because I literally don't understand it. And then I even said, yeah, that's my next comment. I won't even argue it. I just want to understand. And then crickets. So what I did then is around that time, Thomas Van's video about the prior lawsuits, when he's trying to think, does Quarm have a chance here? He's always saying, well, this is what happened in all these prior lawsuits. It's not looking good. So in that video, I commented on Thomas Van's. I was the first comment because I saw it. I just happened to be there and popped up, and I watched it like right as it dropped. So I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether or not the deal between Daybreak and Quarm affects the case or THJ's chances to defenses, and to what degree. That's the next thing I want to try to put in my mind towards a video. And Thomas Van says, to keep it short, I think the deal demonstrates that they are willing to be reasonable and clearly lays out their expectations for what a fan-based server is and that they'd allow to stay online. It basically could be used as a draft. So at this point, I felt like I had not clearly expressed what I was really asking. So I asked him again, and he responded again. I want to read this comment, and I still feel like he didn't hit the nail on the head, but this comment has some relevant information in it that I think should be in this video. He says, I said, I forget the question. I didn't put it in here, so let's just read his response to my reiteration of the question. I just wonder about the stuff we don't know. Like, did Daybreak Games, I think that's what they mean by they, contact THJ at all? And I think he means prior to the lawsuit. And why they are going for a straight shutdown. Daybreak doesn't need to stage a big show like this if they're willing to, or their intention is to work out a deal. They don't need to stage this big show. Make a big offer and meet in the middle. They hold all the cards. So I think they just want to shut down. So they're not aiming to make a deal. And the reason he's saying this is because he's still thinking like me. How does the Quarm deal with Daybreak affect THJ? Unlike the other THJ enthusiasts who have, commented, he's thinking it only affects the settlement. It doesn't affect in court, as Necromancer said. It does not affect in court, and we'll get to that. So that's why he's thinking this way, and that's why I feel like the nail wasn't quite hit in the head, because I wanted to know his thoughts on whether or not it affects the actual litigation in court. And maybe there's no compromise because of their real money trading and the customization. As far as affecting the lawsuit, I don't think it has any bearing on any of the claims Daybreak has made against them. As the IP owner, they can dictate whatever they want. They don't have to make a deal with anyone else, and if THJ is like, well, they made a deal with Quarm and P99, so we want one, it isn't a valid argument. It's solely at Daybreak's discretion. I think it's a non-factor to the lawsuit, to be honest. It might be merely coincidental that they came to an agreement with Quarm during the lawsuit. I can't even see it being like this is what we expect from fan-based servers, because they don't even have to allow that at all in any fashion. So I think you're right. So here he's like, it's funny because he's thinking that the impact for the deal would be a positive that THJ could use. They say, like, look, you made a deal with Quarm, right? So he's seeing it as a potential positive. So I had to, again, reiterate what I was trying to ask him. I said, let me try to be more clear. Gymnastics Goldfish was angry at Secrets for making this deal with Daybreak. He seems to think, aside from it just showing that Daybreak is not going to accept custom content, and therefore not going to make a deal that would accept anything like THJ as we know it now, he seems to think that it actually directly hurts the case for THJ. A commenter came over to my vids expressing this, and then I quoted Necromancer, if Secret wanted to shut down the server, so be it. He should have kept it down until the lawsuit was over. He making a deal with Daybreak Games is asinine. All he did was help Daybreak's lawsuit in court. He specifically says in court. So now I say, now obviously this guy is emotional, but I'm trying to understand two things here because I don't understand it yet. How these THJ players and a part of the community, this is one of the first things I want to understand. First, how do these THJ players and a part of the THJ community think that the deal between Quarm and Daybreak negatively impacts their chances in court exactly? Like, what are they thinking? And then B, in your opinion, I asked him, does it actually, or could it actually, in fact, have an impact in any way? Because I'm not actually experienced in court, not near as much as it seems like Thomas Van. I mean, he may not be experienced in court, but he follows cases more, and he's done more research, and he's in business. So I was saying, like, will it actually have an impact? So first was, what are they thinking? How do they think it's going to have an impact? And B is, does it actually have an impact? So Thomas Van says, oh, okay, now I see what you're saying. Okay, gotcha. So I want to say that I find humans are generally reasonable, and the only problem with gymnastic goldfish is that our generation grew up watching too much Braveheart. So when you think we're going to fight and make a stand, just think of the scene, they can take our lives, but they will never take our freedom. And that's the disconnect with a lot of players. It's all raw emotion and symbolic. If gymnastic goldfish were to take the whole scenario into consideration now and ditch the Braveheart stance, Secrets not having an LLC and being personally liable, combined with nobody has won a copyright suit this way, combined with the amount of damages, etc., I think if gymnastic goldfish was running Quarm, they would probably shut down the server, and they would probably try for an agreement instead of being potentially personally sued. I'm going to put potentially in there because he's voicing it like it's happening, but it's not happening. But the fact that it could happen, and the fact that once it happens it's too late, you should almost, it's still rational to respond. So he would probably have shut down the server and tried for an agreement instead of being personally sued for $6 million plus. So I think it's just being trapped in the emotional, remember the Alamo kind of train of thought is what we're seeing in his videos, but not really what he would actually do, taking all these things into consideration now if he were in Secret's position. At least that's my hope, that any reasonable person wouldn't try to fight it personally and be liable for the damages. Once they are in that position, they would start to see what's actually on the line. This isn't just, oh, you lose, shut down your server. This is, oh, you lose, now we own your house, thanks. So as far as the community beliefs and why they think it would hurt in court, you're spot on. He agrees with I explained to him, I don't know if I put that comment in this video, but I explained to him what I was thinking. With Quarm making a deal, it's basically seen as admitting that they're infringing. And then it reflects poorly on THJ for holding out, thinking they're in the right. So if THJ says, we're in the right, we can use this content, the THJ users are thinking the judge is going to be like, but what about that server? They made a deal, so they know that they're not in the right. So that means you're not in the right too, right? And we're going to talk about why that's not how courts work. And so then it reflects poorly on THJ for holding out and thinking they're in the right, and it turns THJ into kind of being reckless and refusing to compromise. So that's the thought process which you've identified. Again, that's not the reality. This is a thought process which I've identified, and he agrees. As I've kind of said, legally it has no real bearing on the case. A rights holder, Daybreak, can choose to make deals with some people and still sue others. The court is only examining whether THJ infringed, not whether Quarm settled. So if Daybreak Games tried to bring this agreement in as evidence in their lawsuit against THJ, it would get thrown out. Because, I mean, it's just simple logic. The defense could simply say, sir, like, that server is entirely different from our server. For example, like if they're claiming we changed the content so much we should have free use, Quarm did not. Quarm is kind of like P99 with some quality of life changes, whereas THJ has changed nearly everything. So THJ could say, well, we're very different from that server. They could also say, it doesn't matter that Secrets decided in her head that she's infringing on the copyright. That doesn't mean she actually was. Who cares if she went and made a deal with Daybreak because she was being paranoid, right? If we're going to use that kind of language. So it would just get thrown out. It could not be brought in as evidence in the actual case. Where it could have an impact, though, back to Van's comment here, is settlement talks. It shows Daybreak is willing to make agreements. But that's not going to change anything legally. It's still the same issue. THJ has a problem because of scale, RMT, and competition, etc. So we seem to be in agreement on this, that it could affect the deal. And maybe that's where THJ enthusiasts are, what they're really feeling, and then they're just not thinking and talking. Is that what they're actually feeling is like, oh no. I think in the back of their head, they're in the front. And their front is, we're going to win this case. But in the back of their mind, they're like, if we put up a strong front and we fight real hard, Daybreak will concede and make a deal with us. And this shows that this reduces the likelihood of that, because maybe Daybreak's going to be like, oh, look, we already got Quarm to take out their custom content, so now we can't back down with THJ and let them keep their custom content. And without their custom content, little things for Quarm, but these little things are not little things for THJ. They're the heart and soul of THJ, right? Without their custom content, they're nothing more than any other emulator, right? The whole thing about THJ is how they've strongly custom altered the game with the multi-class combos that allow you to be able to solo through it. So that's the thing here. So anyway, that's the thing. Let's just do a quick recap. The steelman is that the only real valid effect that the Quarm deal with Daybreak has is in regards to a settlement with THJ, and I don't think the Quarm agreement is changing the way Daybreak, like without the Quarm agreement, I don't think Daybreak would compromise the THJ. I think the Quarm agreement is showing us, it's just reflecting the reality that was hidden before, is that Daybreak Games is not here to make a deal. They're not going to allow this custom content to continue to exist. That's what they're doing. They weren't just like making a big show to bring THJ to the negotiating table like Trump might do, right? With his tariffs, that was not what was going on here. Daybreak's like, screw this, we're cutting it down. Because if they accept THJ, they're going to keep losing more players to THJ. It's going to kill them because THJ did something cool that people like, and Daybreak's not doing that, and for whatever reason, they're not willing to do it. So they weren't going to make a deal, and Quarm making a deal with them, in my opinion, it's just a reflection of that fact. It's not the cause of that. It's a reflection of that they're not willing to make a deal with THJ's custom content, not the cause, right? As far as in case, I think what THJ users are thinking is that now this can be a piece of evidence that shows that THJ was in the wrong using the copyright material. But that's not how the cases work. They look at what exactly did the server do and what is the copyright law. They can't just say, well, that person made a deal, so that therefore this shows that. No, like, how does it show? Like, that person could have just made a deal because they're crazy. They're paranoid. So it doesn't have any effect in the actual litigation. Okay? Anyway, now one more thing I want to talk about here is the amazing amount of emotion coming from these commentators, and also a bit from myself. And I think it's interesting to see this powerful tribalism, and I wanted to share with you something I found in a very ancient book that I study very regularly. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so this is from chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, an ancient, one of the oldest texts that we are aware of, actually, an ancient text from the Indian philosophical tradition, found in, the Vedic scriptures of like Hinduism and the Hare Krishnas, right? So check this out. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. So our basic understanding of lust is like, sexual, but lust can just mean like a hankering, like a real, like, I want it, and then the sexual is like the peak of that. But here it means all like wanting sensual pleasure, right? So when we develop the objects of the senses, and the senses include the mind, I'm not just saying that, it says in this book elsewhere, the senses are not just sight, touch, taste, sound, it also includes the mind. So what I'm thinking is that we're contemplating these objects of this game, and we're identifying with it so much and enjoying it so much that we're becoming attached to it, right? And from that attachment, lust for it, they want it so bad, right? And from that lust, anger arises. Anger when it's threatened or taken away, right? From anger, delusion arises. Delusion. You get so angry with that thing that you want that you start to get deluded. You start to not see things in reality as real. You start to have like a, Like imagine being in love with the girl and then she leaves you, and I mean, probably don't have to imagine. Most of us are old enough now, like, or she cheats on you. From anger, delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So that's kind of the cycle, I think, that we're experiencing in this material world. And it's the battle between controlling our animalistic tendencies, because the animal tendency in us is just all about getting, and enjoying and surviving. And then there's the more noble tendency in us is like, well, can I be selfless? Can I be objective? Can I be good? Right? And so the more we indulge in sensual pleasures, the more we get attached to them, and the more when they are removed, it makes us angry, and it bewilders us, and it actually clouds our intelligence and makes us say stupid stuff and do stupid things. All of us, including myself. I got a bit angry at THJ devs because, in my eyes, they completely neglected to think about the emulator servers community, which they became a part of when they opened an EverQuest emulator. Whether or not they thought about it that way or not, at that point, anything they did would reflect. Like if you go around telling everybody you're a Christian, and then you start fucking around, and people see you and they think this is how Christians are like. And then if you bring down the law on yourself, you might bring down the law on all Christians, right? That's a bad example, but it's even more, it gets the point across, right? Like as soon as they open an EverQuest emulated server, whether or not they felt like they were part of the community or not, they were having their actions are going to have an impact on these other servers. And even if they're like, we're just doing our own thing, we don't care about other emulators, they should still think twice about like, well, those people are doing their own thing too. They've been doing it for longer than us, and we should maybe consider about how our actions might destroy their thing that they're doing. And I don't feel like they did that at all. I feel like they got their huge THJ player base, and that's all they cared about, and maybe the money that they are making. The idea that they're making $20,000 a month was an anonymous tip, as you can see in, I think it was Thomas Van's video about the lawsuit. There was an anonymous tip that started this whole lawsuit thing that said they were making about $20,000 a month. They have an LLC to protect them, so it seems like they might have planned to do this. I mean, it's not like the defense I hear about this is they're like, well, they didn't expect to. They were only expecting to make enough to cover their server costs, and that just sort of happened. Well, then what did they do when they started making $20,000 a month? Did they start saying, hey, you guys, we actually don't need this much money. We're going to send some of it back to you, a certain percentage. We're going to send 87% back to every donor because we don't need it. No, that's not what they did. And then some people are still arguing that they didn't make money or they're running it for free, but most people are now accepting that, and they're just doubling down by saying, well, they deserve to make money. Like, well, no arguing with that. You deserve to make money off of someone else's IP. I don't know what to tell you there. Daybreak bad. But you can see these comments that I'm getting. But also the entire attitude. Like your intelligence has to be bewildered to be angry at Secrets for making a deal with Project Quarm and Daybreak to now Quarm can exist legally with Daybreak. You have to be a bit deluded to hold that against her because of your own interest with your other server. It might, in some tiny sliver of a way, affect something. It's like, you gotta understand, people are looking out for their server too. And the responsibility for where THJ is, the position they're in, falls on their shoulders. If not 100%, 99%. So why are you directing your attention and your anger at Secrets for the potential 1% responsibility of whatever outcome might come, instead of at the devs who engaged in real money trading, who advertised aggressively all over the place without any care or concern about, attracting Daybreak's attention, and who, upon being sued, decided to fight against Daybreak instead of pay some deference and seek some sort of deal themselves. But in the end, I think most of this is just coming from Daybreak bad, THJ Jesus, and Quarm with Daybreak, Quarm bad, Secrets bad, all bad, do, and then someone else yelling, hey, maybe that deal hurt our case even. They're like, yeah, let's yell at them for that. The potential vague flit of thought we had that seems to support the rage that we're riding on and enjoying right now. Because all that lust of the enjoyment is now converted into anger and delusion. Because they're willing to just, yeah, it did hurt our case. No matter what you say, no matter how clearly you explain how it didn't, it did. Because that fits my anger. So there's the anger leads to delusion. Delusion, bewilderment of memory. You can see in the comments, like some of them are even contradicting themselves. You should have Secret should have considered THJ and not made this deal with Daybreak until after the lawsuit. But Quarm is a piece of shit, that stupid ass server that doesn't deserve to live. It's like, well, where's the consistency in the attitudes that you expect people to have? Bewilderment of memory, loss of intelligence, unable to think clearly and see the situation as it is, and then falling again into the material pool. So anyway, that book is amazing in so many different places, in so many different ways. I highly recommend checking it out. I've been studying it for a couple decades now, and I'm still studying it because it's just wonderful. It's good to see things from that perspective, I think, to help you understand what is happening and become free from it. Even if you're still dancing in it a little bit. I'm not totally free, but I can watch myself and kind of laugh. Get a little angry at THJ devs for just like Daybreak did what they're going to do, THJ devs did what they're going to do too. But as the problem is I got some attachment. I developed some affection for Quarm. And I watched Secrets, and the whole way through she's doing a great job and she's giving this thing to me. So I felt, some loyalty and affection for her, which converts into a desire to protect her, right? Or him. Like, I'm not whichever side of the political spectrum, like, just, can you hear what I'm saying instead of thinking about that, her or him. They did nothing but do their best and do a good job, and in service to me I feel indebted to them, and to see people attacking their character, even if it's only some small channel on YouTube, it's presented in front of me. So what are my choices at that point? Say nothing? That doesn't feel right. I don't expect anyone to join me. I don't expect any particular outcome, but I gotta say it. Gotta say it. This is unfair. It's unfair, and you're wrong. I think. That's what I think. You think that? I think this. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm entitled to my opinion about their opinion. So what now? Anyway, guys, another video that's longer than it should have been. But I keep going because I think some people expressed that they like it. So I thought, if I like saying it and you like hearing it, now we're reaching the point where it's getting a little empty. And I should probably just stop the recording, right? But here I am still talking because I'm having fun. Look out for Monsters and Memories. It's dropping very soon. I think it's like literally in 12 hours from now or something, or like 13, 14 hours from now. The alpha test is kicking up. So if there's still time to download the client and get ready for that. I'm going to be trying that out now. I'm in the countryside. Work is done. I'm on summer vacation. So I'm hoping to do that and play with Classic a bit. I don't want to be like hardcore. Like Classic's going to do like marathon style, but I think I'm just going to put a couple hours here and there. Like I said, I'm still trying to focus on my chanting, transcending the mind, and the sensual experience pleasures that develop attachment, which leads to delusion. I'm trying to get free of the material pool. And so it's going to be my guilty pleasure, and I'm going to have to minimize it. But hope to see you guys there. Anyway, best of luck to everybody. And please, if I've offended anybody, please try to understand that I'm expressing my opinions with the emotion that I'm feeling, because I think that's the best way to do it. And in the end, I'm not holding anything against literally anybody. I'm not holding anything against Gymnastic Goldfish. I know he's just or this necromancer guy who hates Quarm and hates me and hates Secrets now. They're just they're losing their home, they're losing their server, and some people get more attached to a game server than others. Like, I've got a family, I've got 3 kids and a wife and a whole community that I'm a part of now. I got the spiritual community I'm a part of, you know, and I've got work. And I think some people don't have all of that. They work a remote job or they don't work at all, and they're at home. And this is like, they have family that they don't really connect with, right? And this is where they find that connection. So it ends up being much more to them than just a game server. My unfortunate opinion is, as wonderful as it feels, that game community, it's not so real. Like, as soon as the game shuts down, you're never going to talk to those people. Because we're all so loving and nice to each other, and we say wonderful things, and we're working together because there's no cost, and it feels good for us. And I think the people who are getting extremely vitriolic here, I feel sorry for them, because like, what kind of real love could you have in your life to be like that nasty to somebody for making a deal so that their emulator server could run legally? Like, it's just they're overly attached to this THJ thing, and I hope they find that connection somewhere else, and somewhere more direct and, lasting than an emulated server. And I think it's really coming from the Discord, so they can stay in the Discord, right? THJ shuts down, can still bro up in the Discord, right? I think that's where this, because THJ is like a solo game. So where's all this community thing coming from? I think it's all getting, it's in the Discord, where all this sense of community and, taking a last stand at the Alamo and the Braveheart fighting for freedom, all that attitude's coming actually from the Discord chatter. And that's maybe where most of the emotion is coming from. It's not from the actual gameplay of THJ. It's from the community that they feel like they're a part of now. So anyway, best of luck, and please feel free to say anything in the comments, anything at all, because everybody's entitled to their opinion. Don't be surprised when I reply with my own. Why not, right? Why not hash it out? Some people, I made a post in the Quarm general chat when I first saw Gymnastics Goldfish's video, and I'm like, hey, you guys, like, dude, this guy's saying all this stuff. Come on, help me hit this comments. And everyone's like, oh, this is a Wendy's, sir. Like, what the heck? Don't get involved in any of that. I'm like, where's the pros? Where's the pros? What are you afraid of? Everyone's too enlightened, taking the high road to I don't know, I gotta do what I gotta do. Where's the honor? Too busy being enlightened to be honorable. But I'm in my position, they're in their position. I only want people to look at the video, and if you feel inspired like I do to put a comment, join me in the comment. And if you don't, oh, you saintly person, I guess, right? Or you just maybe don't really have all that much affection for secrets. I don't know, but I'm grateful for Quarm, so I'm willing to say a thing or two and be like, hey, that ain't true, bro. Alright, peace and love, everybody.